We call to order tonight's meeting of the Portland City Council. First item on the agenda is prayer and pledge. We'd all stand. Our recorder, Doug Yakel, is going to do it.
Let's pray. Lord, Father, as we humbly bow, we just thank you, Lord, for this day. May bless us, Father. Father, we thank you, even though we had some difficulties yesterday, Father, that everybody was okay. Nobody was injured in it, Father, so we praise thee for that. We just ask now, Father, tonight as we consider the business of the city, Father, that we'll do it in a manner that will be pleasing to you, and that, Father, that it'll always be pleasing with you. And these things we ask in thy holy and precious name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate that. Roll call, Ms. King.
Alderman Bratton.
Here.
Alderman Callaway.
Here.
Alderman Harvard. Vice Mayor McDowell.
Here.
Alderman Moon.
Here.
Alderman White.
Here.
Next, we need approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any changes, comments on the agenda? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, communications from mayor and alderman. I do have someone to say. We all may want, but does anybody have anything they want to address to the public?
Yeah, I do, Mayor. I just wanted to appreciate everybody that came out last night and helped. Portland Builder Supply opened up their business. I think other people was bringing things out. So much going on, it's hard to keep track who did, who didn't. And firemen, volunteer firemen, and policemen came from everywhere off shifts, and everybody was out there, and they tarped the building. That was pretty awesome. Thomas and his guys was out there clearing metal, moving things out of the way, and we were really fortunate. I think the only casualty we had was Mad Dog Roberts got a little injured, but jumping in to help out. But we were really fortunate, and one thing that really kind of stuck out to me, we've been talking about a need for a satellite fire hall just for the needs of the city. If our public safety building would have been hit last night directly by a tornado, we'd lost all of our equipment. We lost several people right then, and we'd had no ability to respond in the city of Portland. That alone just showed me we needed a satellite station there just for those types of needs. And so I hope that we can work that out and make that happen soon. But really glad to see everybody came out and helped out last night.
Okay. Anyone else have anything? I'd just like to echo kind of what Mike has said. I do appreciate everyone that has helped. And even today we had from a private contractor with his track hoe and operators to help get all the tin up. And everybody has done an excellent job of trying to get, and that's what I was asked today. It's great about our community when people are in need, people come out, and we're very fortunate and thankful that no one got hurt or especially life was lost, and very, very thankful that no more of our city was damaged, and do appreciate everyone that helped. And another thing I want to say is, kind of on top of that, this will be our last televised meeting before Thanksgiving. I want to wish everyone in the city good Thanksgiving, and we got a lot to be thankful for, and let's remember that and remember all the things that we need to, and remember everyone during this period of Thanksgiving. Does anyone else have anything?
Are you pointing any turkeys this year?
If I need to, I guess I can.
I'm just checking. So you're available?
We're talking about animal or human turkeys? It's a little fun there. All right, anybody else got anything? Okay, if not, we do have one item. It's a public hearing item. Well, next we have public recognition. If anyone would like to address the council on an item on the agenda tonight, may do so at this time. I'd like to keep it to about 5 minutes. Would anyone like to address the council on an item on the agenda tonight? Anyone? Okay, if not, we'll go on. We have a public hearing, ordinance 13-37, an ordinance authorizing a contract proposed between the City of Portland and Goodwin Mills and Kaywood for geotechnical study of the City of Portland's dam. Does anyone from the audience wish to make a comment on this ordinance? This is up for second reading tonight.
This is in the public hearing phase, right?
Yes. Okay, if not, public hearing closed. Next, we'll move into the Public Works part. Mr. Bratton, you want to?
Ordinance 13-37, second reading. It's an ordinance authorizing a contract proposal between the City of Portland, Tennessee and Goodwin Mills and Carwood, Inc. for geotech study for the City of Portland Dam. Make a motion to approve with some discussion.
Have a motion to approve. We'll have a second. Okay.
Councilman Menace has shared with me that he had citizens that was concerned, or maybe wanted a little bit more clarification about exactly what we're doing and why we're doing it, and maybe why this engineering firm. So maybe you could sort of bring us up to speed and give him a little comfort zone with that.
We are doing because there's found some water at the base, and this will be the borings to see how extensive those are and where they are. Of course, we have a base price of $14,035 to do this, not to exceed $20,000. The reason you got the not to exceed is they find certain things in their borings they may have to do some additional borings that won't be known until they actually do that part. So that is the reason to do that. They did find some water at the base coming out around when they was doing the work there at the dam. The reason the engineering company was, they were the engineers on the water plant addition, were out there during the discovery of this and have been involved in it. So that's the reason we continue with them, because they've been involved with water plant work through this whole last couple of years.
Another question was asked also. Do you think that any of the construction out there had any play in the new seepage?
You know,
Don't know.
It's possible. I mean, it's been several years, I know longer than me and Melvin both remembered, when there was any work done there. So I think, you know, this is a very scarce area, and, you know, it is subject to that. But, you know, yeah, I mean, you had all that rock over there on the water lines and stuff. Around there was hammering and stuff when the water plant was built. So you had all that rock up there with that. I mean, it very easily, some jarring could have helped do that.
When that old plant was demolished, were all those concrete basins taken out of the ground?
They were
just
down to where they
filled
could-
and covered.
Right. I mean, but a certain part of them was. I mean, so there was some hammering and, you know, things going on, work with there at that time. But
And another concern he had, and you stated at the last meeting that any of those, anywhere we drill, they was going to fill it back so that wouldn't
Right.
create an issue.
right.
Is that pretty well?
Yeah, I just wonder, when they drill, well, if they hit this grout that's already in there, maybe if it's a possibility, maybe doing any structural damage to that,
We can ask that before we allow them to do it. I
because
mean,
we don't have no idea where it's at, how much. It might be just a,
Right.
you know, a small amount or a huge amount.
But they may, that's a question we can ask, if they can detect that when they're drilling. I know they can detect some things, you know, as that stuff starts coming up, you know, what they get into. But that's a question we can ask. And not proceed until we get that answer. I mean, if you want to prove it tonight or delay it, but, you know, we can make sure that's known before we start either way. So.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any other comments or questions? Well, if you want to go ahead and prove it, then we'll be sure, Thomas, that we get a good answer. If not, then I won't sign the order until we get comfortable that we got an answer about the grout, Melvin. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Ordinance 13-38, first reading. The ordinance authorizes a contract between the City of Portland, Tennessee, and Portland Utility Construction for the annual sewer system rehabilitation. Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Is there any questions?
Do we have a second?
Oh, I'm sorry, second. I thought somebody over there said second.
Oh, I
I'm
didn't
sorry.
hear.
I did.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. Okay. What this is, for the audience, is that annual contract reporting utilities for sewer rehab work as we find problems in our sewer lines through inspections with I&I, which means the infiltration water getting into our sewer lines. They already have a price to do it, and we know the amount to be done. That way we can gauge how much money we're spending, be sure we stay within our budget as we do the sewer rehab, and tackle problems as we see them within our sewer system. This amount was quantities that was used to base a bid on. It by no means how much money we're going to spend. It's just the way the bids were based.
It's a big change order.
And these were done, bids were very done, I think probably one of the best bids because it was done, you know, a lot of times they do sewer lines, water lines so much depth, it was ever, 2 to 3 foot, so on down to the deepest, so we know we're not going to get, and we've gotten some issues before, we know once we hit a certain depth, we may not have a price, so hopefully they're ever, and in payment, out of payment, I mean, all that was covered, so I feel like we got a real good bid.
And the low bid is a local contractor that
Low bid.
we've had positive experience with.
Right. Any other comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Ordinance 13-39, first reading, ordinance authorized to change order number 1, final adjustment to the amount of $52,810 for a contract with Triton Construction to replace natural gas line on Highway 259. Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
I think there's a little concern about there's such a large date. Do we just add footage?
Well, let's get a second. We'll get Thomas to
I thought we
second.
did.
I'll second it.
Okay. I'm not, y'all
I
gonna have
thought
to slap
somebody
me.
else did.
Y'all-
We
y'all gonna have to- I'm
we
not
speaking
here to do
softly
this.
like you tonight, Mayor, kind of
Okay.
softly.
All right. Thomas, you want to explain? And behind your ordinance too is kind of a guide to go by. The second page behind it.
Just a quick reminder for everybody in the audience, what this is this was the gas line upgrade for 259. This is the final adjust and change order. The work's been done. It's been done to our satisfactory. All the cleanup is done, and this is the final bill. There were some decreases in the contract, which is where they credited us back money, which was in the amount of $31,710 that they credited back. Then they had some increases in the contract of $84,520, which those minused out comes up to be the final adjusting change order of $52,810. And the lion's share of the increase in the contract was $79,820, which was from the addition of 307 linear feet of 8-inch diameter SDR casing pipe with additional bore of the 4-inch PE carrier pipe. Basically, that was the bore that they had to do on Drake's Creek. They had hit rock. The way that this was originally set up was for it to go at a sharper angle through dirt. But when it hit the rock, and they had to maintain the 6 feet of below the creek so the bore wouldn't pop out, the auger that augers through the rock could only do a certain amount of deflection with the steel pipe. So basically, they couldn't bend the pipe the way that they needed to because the auger that bores through the rock had to have, in order to get, you see what sharper angles down is closer in with less linear feet, but as the angle could only go at a certain degree, they had to back up to get the same deflection of the pipe. So that is where the cost differential is because they hit Drake's Creek, and that's what it would just cost to go through it because of the angle they had to go through it at because of the solid rock that they hit up under Drake's Creek. And that's why the change order is $52,810.
They couldn't cut into the bedrock and lay the pipe in there and concrete it?
That is one of the things that I don't believe they could do with the permits and stuff, with all of the sediment and stuff getting inside of creeks. There's really been a tightening down of that, and the boring was how we originally set it up in the contract, is what they bid it on. And once they got there, they had hit pretty much pure rock under Drake's Creek, and in order to maintain that depth of 6 feet so that no silt or dirt would get into Drake's Creek, they had to back up to get the angle of deflection just right.
Well, I know there's permits and stuff, but it looks to me like saved a bunch of money if they could have done that. I know a couple other cases up the creek, that's what they did.
Yeah.
They buried it a couple of feet in solid rock, then concreted it,
Yeah.
and
Yes, sir.
wasn't that big a deal.
Yes, sir. But on this one,
Thomas, I'm assuming these were the lowest bidders on this project?
yes, sir, they were the
Do you know
lowest
what
bidders.
the next person up, their amount came in at?
I don't have it with me. I don't have the original contract bid with me.
Is this something that any of them would have encountered and had to have done the same thing?
Yes, sir. Anyone would have encountered the
That's,
exact
I just
same
wonder what
problem.
percentage of the total project did it, that's a big change order, $52,000.
They,
Your original contract amount was
78 was 14%.
378,000.
14%. Is there ever any type of a percentage that if it reaches a certain percentage, it has to be reevaluated or something, or can it, I mean,
We
what
could
keeps them
put that
from?
in there. We don't presently have that in, but we could make it part of the contract.
I believe that when this was originally designed, that they assumed that they would hit dirt at a certain point, but they went through and they used a sonograph. They used a sonograph machine that could detect rock, and they detected rock all the way through, and that's why they had to do what they did in order to meet the guidelines for the auger machine. It could only go at a certain angle. through
Well,
the-
I wasn't trying to, question their professionalism, what they do, but like the next highest bidder was, about $4,000 higher, and sometimes I'm wondering
Oh,
maybe
gotcha.
if they might have took into consideration that sometimes the lowest bid is not the best because you run into this issue, and the other person may have done it for the 382 that they gave us, and we wouldn't have been out that extra revenue on it. Just
I think.
hopefully you understand why I'm asking
know
that.
exactly what
That's-
you're
that's just
asking.
to me, it's a huge change order.
Yeah, and it's a really legitimate question. It's a good question. But I do feel in my heart that any company that would have got this bid would have had the same encounter. They would have encountered the same thing. The only thing that I would recommend to do different next time is to bid it as a lump sum, and let them figure out how to do it at the certain amount of money that they bidded versus by the foot.
Typically, what I see sometimes on these crossings is they will go out and evaluate, because we all know, well, you don't know what you run into with creeks. And typically, there would have been some evaluation prior to the bid to determine what was there. And sometimes it's easier for them not to do that. I think that's what the concern is, and not with this contractor, is that, sometimes they know the smart thing to do is to go out and evaluate it and then put that in the bid. But if they choose not to put it in the bid and they find it in the middle of a project and they've already run, so many feet, you're not going to stop and go through back the process. Typically, it's going to be approved and there's a change order approved. So I think that's the key. It's not the lump sum, it's just to make them evaluate these crossings like that.
Yeah, I'm not trying to insinuate that they would do something
Yes, sir.
unethical there at all, but I mean, it would be easy for someone to say, that's something we can add $50,000 to the bid later, let's shoot it low now because that's gonna have to be done. They may have known it, I mean, that could happen.
It could.
And so, I mean, that's why I'm curious if everybody compared apples to apples in their bid process, if the next person up knew he was gonna have to do that.
And a lot of times.
Just throwing it out there, I mean.
Yes, I
Yeah, and a lot of
understand.
times what I see is that they won't actually commit on a footage across crossings, is that they won't commit, they'll just, it'll be, they'll leave it there, because if they don't test it, they're not, because we could reject the change order. And
Right.
so,
They've already
it's
performed the
just
work, yes, hasn't it?
just some thought for future.
Of course, another thing you could do is actually have the engineers, which would cost more on engineering service, but might save this amount, is have them do some pre-borings on sites, and that way they know exactly what to put in their proposal. Of course, that's a little bit more upfront, but it might save you this down the road, a certain amount of it.
Because
When they
this-
got a competitive bid, it may drop it a few dollars per foot. That's
Be-
kind of what you're.
Because,
Because you're saying that it actually was an $80-something thousand increase, but we had some credits that brought it down to 52.
Yes, sir,
Right.
79,000, yes, sir.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
and
to me.
because there's areas in this community that, it would have been difficult to get through it. I mean, it
Right.
could have doubled real easy. But thank you, Thomas. I was
You're
just-
welcome, thank you.
So we just need for our next bid, which we've got some coming up, Thomas, we need to figure out how we're going.
Or either, if we didn't want to spend that money, you could put it in your bid specs that they were required to do those tests,
Right.
And sometimes they'll do that, and, you know, if they don't do it, they don't know what to bid, so they'll do it themselves.
Of course, laying lines, like creeks is pretty simple. You can do pretty much a hand probe test, but
Yeah,
creeks are a little bit different.
it is. Creeks are tough.
And I know it's the gas department that we're talking about, and we assume that they have money in that account, but is that,
But still, we need to try to do it as cheap as we can.
is that gonna, this $52,000 increase, how bad is it gonna throw that?
It's not gonna throw it off that bad at all. They have money in reserve.
Capital projects that we're gonna be doing, quite a bit.
Now, one thing you may want to note on looking at the original bids, there was two. Jody mentioned one was $4,000 more. The next lowest bid was $552,000, and those four went from 552 to 572 to 578 to 584. So it leaned two of the four or two of the six bunched, another four bunched. I don't know. Your point
I know
may be
it-
valid that the bottom two may have missed that in the top four.
That's what I
May
was
have done
saying,
the other.
those others are so far off, I wonder if they knew beforehand that that was gonna have to be done.
If that's the case, you still save money.
You still save money though. Yeah.
Right.
I agree.
And we've had good experience with this company. They've been, you know, doing work for us a while, so I'm not questioning, you know, it's just maybe we need to just,
Right, on our front end,
Well,
do a
I'm
bit better job.
questioning them, but a gas pipeline went all the way across the country, and they crossed creeks dozens of times. And that's the way they did theirs. They dug in rock base and concrete it.
Right.
the permitting process is,
Right, it's different.
Well, you know, sometimes you have to jump through some hoops
And I
to
get-
save $50,000.
And to further close my argument up here, what I was asking about a minute ago, and I guess the work's already been done, but my concern was the percentage of what the total project was. Is there ever a point that it reaches that they would stop and say, hold on, before we do something that's fixing to cost the city of Portland another $52,000, do they need to get permission first before they proceed? Or, you know, maybe we would have done what Melvin said and said, well, can you find another way to do it before, but now it's done and we have the bill, we've got to pay it, so.
I mean, you can set that
We
up in the
can set that up
contract.
in a contract, any way you want to do it, if you want to do that.
And you could, if they come in and you find that area and you
A
say.
small
we have-
change order's one thing, but a $50,000, that's a huge.
Well, you can set it up for any
pocket
kind of
money.
change order that you, however you want to set that up the contract, that sometimes the difficulty is that if you go back and redo a bidding process, now you're in the middle of a project, and you hold the project up for however many days.
Yeah. And I'm not even sure it'd have to be
I don't know.
rebid, but, you know, let us have the chance to approve it before they do it, or we, like I say, we may have come up with another idea like Mr. Menace did.
I'm with you.
The ticket was 79.
Well, I mean, they have the credits,
But this is after the fact, too late now.
right, too late now.
Well, we can, the one's coming up, we can, okay, we.
I just think it should be that way if it looks like in the project that it's gonna be more than a certain percentage of the original that needs to be brought back for approval before they continue with it.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, like I said, we can put that in whatever, regardless of whether it's gas or anybody, we can start.
I mean, what if they came to us and it was a $150,000 change order? I mean, there's nothing, there's no cap anywhere. We'd have just had to eat it and go on.
rather than handcuffing administration, you know, typically we appropriate money for these projects.
All right.
And as long as it stays below that appropriation, whatever that amount is, you know, then we allow administration to deal with it. Because if we budget in 300,000 and, you know, and there's an issue that have change orders, increases it to 275, then there's not a problem. But if it exceeds that amount that's been appropriated for that project, then I think that something would kick in, because we don't want to handcuff, you know, projects trying to get back and all that sort of stuff. I mean, that would just be my idea. That would be a safeguard,
Okay, we.
because, you know, every job has a
Right.
amount that's appropriated.
Okay.
Fruit for thought for work study.
Okay. All right, any other comments or questions? Ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, Mayor
Thank you.
and Thomas.
All right, it's all in our public works. Mike, you got 2 or 3 items, public safety.
Resolution number 13-116 is a resolution to hire a police officer for the city of Portland. Just to catch you up to speed, we have an approved list of officers that were presented to us by the chief. We've had an officer that is leaving, and we need to replace that slot, and I think the chief was looking to replace him with a certified officer. Hence, the name that we have tonight is James Kilman. We'll move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And I believe,
Certified, right?
I believe Mr. Kilman's with us.
Right,
If
you
you
wanna-
want to stand and see him. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank y'all, appreciate it.
Welcome aboard.
Sorry,
Welcome aboard.
appreciate it.
And you,
Appreciate
here's a
it.
list of all the council members' license numbers, just.
Okay. You got a place too,
Just so to catch you up to speed.
or? That'll work.
Don't want you to get started on wrong foot or anything.
Absolutely.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah, we're glad to have you.
I like to have a little fun along with all this stiffness, so just don't
You
pay
have to.
attention to me.
Thank you.
Good place to work.
Thank you.
Resolution number 13-117 is a resolution to hire a volunteer firefighter for the city of Portland. Once again, Chief Al was working through a list so he could have that ready when we had a need, and we have an opening. And the name presented to us is Joshua Law. Move to approve.
Have a motion.
Second.
Have a second. Is any comments or questions? I don't see here.
He was not unable to be here tonight.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Resolution 13-118 is a resolution authorizing the Portland Fire Department to donate surplus fire hose to the Oak Grove and Highland Volunteer Fire Departments. Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? Chief, you want to just real quickly explain what?
Yes, sir. As y'all realize, we had some money and equipment in this budget year that we purchased some large diameter hose. The trend is to go into a large, it's a 5-inch diameter supply hose that we bought. It's been purchased, it's it's already loaded in the truck. When we unloaded our surplus hose, the 2.5, we really don't have any need for it anymore, and there's no need in it just being stored and dry rotting. We would like to donate it to a department that would like to have it and put it to use.
Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Next, we got two more under legislative ordinance 13-40. It's a first reading. An ordinance authorized proposal between the City of Portland and Tennessee Department of Transportation to construct a project in the City of Portland State Project numbers, which this is basically described as the I-65 interchange from existing Route 109 to I-65.
Move to approve.
Have a motion. Do we have a second? This is the normal agreement that the city goes into anytime the state comes through a project through the city. Any comments or questions?
Are these 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of numbers? Is that 4 different routes, or is that sections of one route?
That's sections or different parts of, maybe the interchange may be like from 31 to
Okay.
interstate, but it's all from 109 to the interchange. And this route's done been set. The bypass is one that hadn't been, but this is
Okay.
the interchange only. And, there was a meeting, like it's been 2 weeks ago now, where they are starting to purchase the right-of-way. Some of it be done. They said people should be notified probably before the end of the year, and then the rest of them after the first of the year, depending on what category it fell into. So they are moving on with the project. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Let the record reflect that I did not vote.
Okay. Next, we have ordinance 13-41. It's also the first reading. It's an ordinance authorizing agreement between the City of Portland and the State of Tennessee Department of Transportation for a drainage adjustment of the project at 109 and Kirby Road. You'll notice this is to be paid for by 100% by the state. What it is, when they did Kirby Road and 109, they created a little bit some drainage issues on the business there. The builders on a national barn, and so they're going to come back and redo some things there to correct that problem. And that's again, being in the city, they need to have this proposal signed by us in the process.
Move to approve.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mayor, just along those lines of that project, if you haven't had a chance, or maybe you could check about possibly utilizing a turning lane there. We have the space. I don't know who we need to get with at TDOT, but it's kind of getting used as a turning lane, though it's not officially one. And so if we could maybe get the light changed and utilize that, we really need that going north if we could.
I know. Okay. All right, this ends our official business tonight. We do have a work study immediately following this meeting. So at this time, nobody objects. We'll adjourn our council meeting. Y'all want a break? Y'all want to get right into it?